Chapter 2 The Engineer and the Marine. The day after the Battle of Savasia, the Coalition Armada began to reassemble for movement. The command ship Marathon took its position at the head of Phoenix Fleet and prepared to move out. On the bridge, Captain Klein was called into a private meeting with Admiral Garnett, the new commanding officer of Phoenix Fleet. Down in the CIC, Ensign Johnson tapped Ino on the shoulder. "Hey, Esperanta, that new admiral pulled a really ugly face when the XO mentioned you on the bridge an hour ago. Does he know you?" Ino squirmed in her seat and removed her headset. Yes," Ino groaned. "Barrett was the Blue 4 commander during Galax 15, the last big training exercise before the war. He doesn't like me." "Want me to punch his face?" Lieutenant Commander Barrett said. "He's got a really punchable face." "Tempting, but no," Ino said. "Aha! There is some bad blood," Ensign Pines chimed in. "Does it have to do with the whole Prisbin thing?" "Who's Prisbin?" said Ensign Johnson. "Another tactical officer, works on Delta Shift," Barrett answered. "Also, he's Esperanta's ex." "I wouldn't say he's an ex," Ino said. "We hooked up once and stayed friends afterward. That's it." Ensign Pines raised her eyebrows. "Huh. I thought you were friends because you saved his skin after the MPs arrested him," she said. "Arrested? For what?" Johnson looked interested. "Nothing," Ino muttered. "MPs let him go as soon as I said something. No big deal." "I heard Admiral Garnett blew his top when that happened," Ensign Pines concluded. "He's got a reasonable temper, but when he loses it..." Pines opened her hands and mimicked the sound of an explosion. "Right. So who gets to tell him about the micrometeoroid shower stressing out our navigational shields?" Ino joked. She put her hands up when everyone pointed at her. "Okay, I get it. Hey, meteorology station, when the hell is that micrometeor shower going to stop?" "Honestly, I can't tell you, Chief," replied Lieutenant Montgomery. "Space weather is starting to get squiffy. The micrometeor shower is expanding. It'll be system-wide by the end of the day. In fact, I think it looks more like the leading edge of a wave rather than a storm front. I'll keep an eye on it." "Right. I'll hold off on telling the Admiral until we have something more concrete," Ino said. Fortunately, Ino saw very little of Admiral Garnett. He would stay up on Deck 1 while on duty, kill some time in the officers' lounge when he was off duty, and then sequester himself in his quarters for the rest of the time. To avoid accidentally running into the Admiral, Ino would avoid the officers' lounge during her downtime. She knew things would pick up again once the Phoenix Fleet departed the Amaka system and started the next mission, but that was 24 hours away. One whole day Ino needed to kill. After leaving Savasia, Ino waited until her duty shift was over, then descended to Deck 26, deep in the bowels of the command ship and just 3 decks above the keel. There was a gym here, one of 5 on the Marathon. Carrying a duffel bag under her arm, Ino quickly moved from the front entrance to the locker rooms, where she changed into her physical training uniform, silver t-shirt and shorts. Ino grabbed a pair of headphones and listened to an audiobook while she warmed up on the elliptical machines. Looking around, Ino noticed that she was one of only 2 officers in the gym. The other, an Asian man with wavy brown hair, was working the bench press at a very slow and almost leisurely pace. Everyone else in the gym was either lower enlisted or part of the Marine detachment. Ino huffed and puffed on the elliptical for half an hour before deciding to move on to one of the abdominal crunch machines. As she moved across the gym, Ino felt a prickling sensation on the back of her neck. She was being watched. The brown-haired man, the only officer in the room besides Ino, was watching her from across the gym. He was slack-jawed and took too long to react after realizing he was caught staring. Ino grabbed a pair of dumbbells and positioned herself in front of a mirror. Damn, I make the PT uniform look good, Ino told herself. Judging from the reflection in the mirror, a few of the Marines agreed with Ino's assessment. Wait a moment. That officer was looking at Ino again, and Ino noticed a glint in his right eye. Ino returned the weights to the shelf and crossed the gym. The brown-haired man hesitated and looked nervous as Ino approached him. Excuse me, Ino said to the officer. Is that the new BioVis model in your right eye? The officer was taken aback, but answered the question while pointing to his own eye. Kind of? It's the 2388 model, a few years old now. I've got a bunch of aftermarket augments that I installed myself. You must have seen me in a mirror then. Yeah, Ino said. Saw the light reflecting off the retinal implant. The officer hung his head. I'm sorry for staring. I didn't mean to make you uncomfortable. Ino shrugged. Well, you shouldn't stare at people in the gym like that, so thanks for saying so. But now you've got my attention, and I want to talk. Ino stuck out her hand. Lieutenant Commander Esperanta, I'm the new Chief Tactical Officer. Call me Ino. Lieutenant Beninato, I'm the Chief Engineer. Name's Sota. And by coincidence, I'm also new. Ino tilted her head and raised an eyebrow, trying to remember a report from the engineering team about their own leadership. Yeah, that's right. Last I checked, there was a Chief Petty Officer in charge of the engineering team, she said. What's his name? Vermont or something like that? Transferred to the Mizukaze, right after we liberated Savassia. There's a replacement coming from the Enterprise, probably getting here week after next. Feeling a little more relaxed, Sota said, You said your name's Esperanta? Ino nodded. I've heard of you, Sota said. Let me guess. Galax? Ino said. Sota nodded. The Defiance was my old ship. I was the boatswain's mate. I heard you did some good work with her. I'd love to buy you a drink and hear the story. Ino and Sota left the gym together, planning to share a drink in the All Ranks Club, the largest recreation space on the command ship. Sitting at the bar together, Ino regaled Sota with the story of her exploits in the Galax War Games for an hour. Sota thoroughly enjoyed the story. He burst out laughing when Ino got to the part where she guided his old ship into a high-speed flyby assault on a battleship 3 times its own size. You are the craziest bitch I've ever met, Sota declared, and I'm glad you told me all about it. God, I wish I could have been a fly on the Betrius Bridge. Ino and Sota finished their beer, and then Sota thanked Ino for joining him. Ino, being a lightweight, was planning to leave the club after finishing her second beer. She was feeling a little tipsy. Before she could move, an unfamiliar hand touched Ino's wrist. A starfighter pilot had sat down next to Ino and was trying to hit on her, ignoring the fact that Ino suddenly withdrew her hand the moment he made contact. Evening, Junior LT, the pilot said. His name tape identified him as Captain Alan Cobra Sharp. Hello, sir, Ino replied, instinctively adding a layer of deference to her voice as this man outranked her by a country mile. Captain Sharp was staring very hard at Ino's face while fingering a half-empty beer bottle in his free hand. You look like really unique. Are you mixed race? He asked. Kinda, Ino answered, flashing a confused look at Sota, who raised an eyebrow. I'm like 1/12 Asian. There's some Peruvians in my family tree, and there's like a lot of Japanese in Peru. So, do you have any American DNA in you? he asked. What? Ino said, taken aback. No. Would you like some? He asked, smiling at his own joke. No, Ino replied, starting to feel uncomfortable. You're drunk, sir. Maybe you should head back to your quarters and sleep it off. Ino tried to stand, but Captain Sharp grabbed her elbow and pulled her back down onto the bar stool. Instinctively, without really thinking about it, Ino started to struggle, trying to throw him off. How about we get out of here and go sleep it off together? Captain Sharp slurred his words. Doesn't that sound better? Don't make me order you to come with me. Ino and Sota both opened their mouths to speak, but someone else beat them to the punch. There you are! Cried out a woman's voice. Suddenly, a group of 6 space marines swarmed the bar, forming a semicircle around Sota and Ino. 5 of the marines folded their arms and looked down at Captain Sharp as though they were waiting for someone to say, "Get him!" A petite European woman, wearing a marine uniform with a long brown ponytail, grabbed the pilot's arm and forced him to let go of Ino. Captain Sharp cursed from the sudden pain. The small marine then turned her attention to Ino. Okay, you are not getting away from me, girl. We've got to finish our game. And without waiting for an answer, the marine pulled Ino away from Captain Sharp. Sharp loves going after junior officers, the marine said. I'm sure he's a fun date, but right now I know for a fact he's dating a girl from astronavigation who would totally tear your head off if she finds out. So I'm doing you a favor. Come on, we're going to go throw darts while my crew keeps an eye on him. Darts? Okay, Ino gasped, a little taken aback. What do I call you? Staff Sergeant Lichtenstein, the marine replied, while shoving a handful of darts into Ino's hand. Lichtenstein, Ino slurred. You got a nickname? Call me Elodie, the marine said. Then she drilled a dart into the bullseye from 20 feet away. And you are? Esperanta. Ino Esperanta, Ino replied. I'm the new Chief Tactical Officer. Congrats, Elodie replied with a voice full of enthusiasm. What happened to the old Chief T.O.? I think he was an Arab, Al-Qazi. He's the XO now. Impressive, Elodie replied. And who's the guy with the eye implant? Benny Nato, Chief Engineer. Do you really not know who the command staff are? Elodie and Ino were going back and forth with the darts, landing hit after hit on the center rings. Lady, we're Marines, Elodie explained. Our whole job is to kill bad guys and take their ships. Knowing names isn't our forte. Plucky little girl, aren't you? Ino said, sinking a dart into the bullseye. Plucky? I guess. Pluck, 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 Elodie said, punctuating each word with a dart striking the board. Then Elodie looked over her shoulder, saying, And here she comes. I told you. A young woman had stormed into the bar. She was still dressed in the military jumpsuit worn by all on-duty crew members, but her dirty blonde hair was falling out of its bun. Exasperated and cursing, she smacked Captain Sharp on the back of the head to get his attention. Where have you been? The woman shrieked. You said you'd wait for me. Ino and Elodie watched the confrontation. Several other crew members were looking up from their drinks and conversations as well. 4 of the Marines were watching the lovers quarrel, but one of them, a big French woman, turned her head to look at Elodie. She gave a quizzical expression, as though silently asking for orders. Gimme chaos, Elodie hissed in an overdramatic tone. The French Marine leaned over and whispered into the angry woman's ear. The explosion came 2 seconds later. You're hitting on other girls? The woman shrieked at her cowering boyfriend. At that moment, Sota and 2 Marines appeared behind Ino and Elodie. My friends, I think this is our cue to leave, Sota said. He gestured to the far side of the All Ranks Club, where two men had abandoned their drinks. They were frantically fumbling with a set of black armbands, each emblazoned with the letters MP. Surrounded by a bodyguard of space marines, Ino left the All Ranks Club. She paused further down the corridor and traded contact details with both Sota and Elodie before heading back to her quarters. Ino showed up for her duty shift early and relieved Prisbin. I read your text messages about those two new friends you made. That Elodie girl sounds like she's got a dose of crazy. And you made it sound like Sota wants to sleep with you, Prisbin commented. I'm still trying to figure him out, Ino confessed. Anything I should know about? Our sister ship Basilisk went through the hyper relay an hour ago, Prisbin said. Also, we've got updated mission orders. We're using the hyper relay to enter the Isval star system. Our objective is to blockade the local starbase and create a staging area for Coalition invasion. Sounds good, Ino replied. I'll take over from here. Ino took her place at the Chief Tactical Officer station. The rest of her Alpha Shift team arrived shortly after. I cannot wait to get out of this system, Ensign Johnson said, pointing at the meteorology console. That micrometeor storm is playing hell with our navigational shields. Do you have a weather report for the Isval system? Ino asked. Aw, Johnson, you're going to hate this, Ensign Pine said. More micrometeors in the next system. It's actually worse than here. Well, fuck that, Johnson declared. At that moment, the general quarters alarm went off. All stations, this is the bridge, said the voice of Captain Klein over the intercom. We are preparing to FTL jump into a hostile star system. All stations, report when ready for combat. Bring us to general quarters. Everyone strap yourselves in, Ino ordered, activating the safety harness on her own chair and checking the compartment at her feet, where an emergency breathing mask was attached to the redundant atmosphere generator. Minutes later, all off-duty tactical officers entered the CIC. Prisbin strapped himself into a chair on Ino's left. Ready! All of the tactical officers called out. Ino tapped the intercom button. Bridge, CIC, ready for combat. Engineering ready. Ino heard the voice of Sota Beninato. The rest of the section leaders reported in. Medbay ready. Weapons control ready. Shield system ready. Cloaking sails online. Comms and sensors ready. Hangar ready. Air wing is go to launch. Impulse engines ready. Ino turned her gaze to a computer screen on her left. Axiom, give me external camera 10 forward on monitor 3, Ino said. Her screen changed to show a live feed from a camera mounted on the Marathon's nose cone. She could see the hyper relay ahead. Moving in groups of 10 at a time, the other ships in the fleet began to dive into the gate aperture and vanish. Stand by for FTL jump in 3, 2, 1.
Creeping in my sword's getting out of control. I gotta find my escape, get out of this black hole. Cause justice in the world is hard to find. Time has come, gotta make up my mind. No matter how deep or remote I hide, all my thoughts seem caught up inside. Creeps from the deep, gonna be freaking up your mind. Creeps